Hello again and welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about the pyramid of Kufu. This pyramid's not like every other one, everyone's different. This one's very special, it's got a purpose. It's something that's been kept secret. People throwing about all these sort of wild things like I had a brief conversation with a fellow on the internet about it, and he was so determined that these things are an energy machine. And I said, listen mate, it's not, it's blah blah blah, what I'll show you in a minute. And he got really upset about it, and he's saying that, they didn't put hieroglyphics inside pyramids until the 3rd century, blah blah blah, maybe you should think about the facts. And he's been really quite rude actually. And I didn't see the reply, and I didn't see it until about 2 years later, so it's a bit late for a witty retort. So I just laughed to myself really, but I thought, he's talking about facts. If you want a fact, how about this? Egypt is the most archaeological studied place on the entire planet, and in this time, not once have they ever discovered a machine that runs on energy. So if we're talking about facts, let's get it right, mate. If you find something that runs on energy, let me know. I mean, the Antiquity, whatever, Antiquity device, that's, even that didn't run on electricity. It was very advanced for its time. If you don't know about it, look it up. But, I'd highly recommend it, to be honest. It's very intriguing. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is the actual function of the pyramids. And there's plenty of clues out there that tell you what's going on, do you know what I mean? And sometimes you can dispel any BS basically by identifying certain things. Now, for example, Hitler and the master race. Now they got blonde hair, blue eyes, blah de blah, all this business. But if you actually think about it and don't just believe what you've been told, excuse me, Hitler hasn't got blonde hair or blue eyes, and he's an avid egotist. He thought he's descended from the gods. Who, there's nobody more supreme than him, other than the god. And somebody with that sort of what you call it, like a personality disorder, I guess, why would they ever turn round and say that somebody who looks completely different to them is actually superior? So you see, just by taking just observing and taking note of these little subtle nuances, you can actually cut through a lot of BS. And there was a lot of BS going on there with that, and I'll get to that later. That's in my book actually, and I'm going to show you something from my book now. It's obviously it's not been released yet. It's just in its later development stages. But so, what the Pyramid of Kufu was really for? Now, to know this, or to get an understanding of this, it's not that hard. All you got to do is look at Africa and the past few thousand years. And although Africa has had such a, such a broad interest in it was like the epicenter of the world that never really was recognised or anything. I don't know, it's strange. But basically, all there is people with technology that's far inferior to their own. Basically, they would come in and they would enslave them, and they'd make them mine for gold and whatnot. And that's what happened in Africa. It's been going on for thousands of years. They would enslave all the tribal African people, as many as they could, and they would keep them in these little pens. Now, I'll put a little picture up here, you'll see in a sec. Now, these little pens are made from volcanic glass. Now, a fellow called Mike Tellinger, good bloke actually, he's done a lot of research in that field, and he actually highlighted there's probably a few million of these things around Africa, at least the southern area anyway, by his calculations. Now, these pens, none of them had doors. Now, if you see that they're circular, they've got the bit in the middle, and none of them got doors, and they're made of this volcanic glass. Now, it rings like a bell if you just touch it, if you try and move it. Now, during the dead of night, if people are trying to escape at night when they're not working, you can hear it. You can hear this ding, this ring like a bell, and the guards will be over there in a shot. And that's how they stopped people from escaping, basically, just through the volcanic glass. And you can see all over Africa as well. Michael Tellinger pointed out is that there are these cones, these stone cones, and they're found about the floor and stuff, and obviously been carved for a purpose. He thought they were for like lifting things up, and they've something to do with anti-gravity or anything. Nothing as grandiose as that. In fact, they were just basically they'll put them in the palm of the hand, these cones with a spiky bit going on top and a round bit of the thing. You smash the hard earth, that hard red earth, and break it up so they could get the gold out. And there's millions of them all across these areas where they've got these volcanic glass pens. Now, what they do is, because it's such a far away, like south of Africa and the north of Africa, they'll put it on boats, these little barges, and the flow, I thought that the flow of the Nile would go from Giza down south, but it don't. It goes from south to north. Yeah, so they'll put this gold bars or whatever, well, they wouldn't even smelt it probably then, they'll just put it in its rawest form and they'll transport it up to the pyramids. Now the pyramids is where they would ready the gold for transport. And this has answered another question that just blew my mind. But basically, the pyramids are just big bank vaults. And there's no other way to put it, but big bank vaults. So they keep all the gold that's mined from all of Africa, and it would all be taken there, and from there it would be distributed. Now this is what makes me laugh. The so-called Ark of the Covenant of God or whatever. Actually, I should probably leave that for another video, shouldn't I? Do you know what? I'll leave it for another video. I won't get carried away with myself just yet. Right, so I'm going to show you this page now, and this is something I've been working on for a number of years. Not this page, obviously. I don't work that slowly, but the theory, the hypothesis, or whatever you'd like to call it, as that geezer corrected me on. The one with the energy machines, yeah, right. Alright, mate, whatever, Trevor. Right, so I'm going to show you this now, yeah. So here we go. It is the world's largest bank vault, and now you see here where we've got this entrance that goes down before it goes up. Now, what they would do is they would run the gold up and down in a pulley system. Yeah. So they'd stick it on a wedge with wheels, and it would get pulled up and down, and have a really low ceiling. So if anybody tried to attack or invade, they'd be put at a tactical disadvantage because they wouldn't be able to, they wouldn't be able to fight properly. They're hunched over and whatnot. So I'd imagine you probably have a rack of big spears or something down there, so if anybody tries to get there, you just spear them or whatever. But what you sort of got is the Grand Gallery, it was actually a booby trap. So you'd have 3 shelves, and you'd have a couple of stone balls, heavy stone balls on each shelf, and there'd be a peg in each. And when you pull a lever there, so What's His Chops comes up and he ain't got a password or whatever, you're thinking he's invader, boom, pull that, balls roll down on him, Indiana Jones style, and yeah, he'll get crushed in, and they might even wedge the whole gap, so it blocks the gap off, so it stops invaders from getting in. But what could also happen is the person can then run back here, and there's also a sliding door that could be triggered, that the door will be released as well. Now in the stone coffers, this coffer would have a massive granite lid that was so heavy it would take the whole pyramid team to move it. Yeah, so that would stop any thieving of little bits of gold or whatever. So the whole team would be there at any one time that thing's open, and it's in the middle of the room, so you can't use a lever to prise it open. Now, these things here, they say it's for weight distribution, all that business, but if it was, why wouldn't it be central? If they can manage to get everything else right, the dimensions of their pyramid correct to within a 50th of an inch, but yet they can't get the weight reduction chamber, whatever, in the centre. It don't make sense to me. Obviously it needs to be symmetrical because of the shape is symmetrical. It just makes sense. And off the King's Chamber, you see you've got this flume now that's big enough to fit a pigeon through. So say you're in trouble, right? You come under attack, some bods come in, well, they've managed to get past your security system or whatever, So you have to fall back, you trigger the door, you then take these pigeons out and you release them through the loft hatch, through this flume, whatever, it's there for ventilation as well. Now, they would then fly to neighbouring villages with a message of help, possibly with a reward, you know, saying, look, you relieve us, you help us out, there's lots of gold in it for you. And that's quite an incentive for people to turn up and help you out. But obviously there would be pigeons that were born in these areas where the armies would be, so the homing pigeons, they would naturally return there. And so now with any structure that's a anti-siege structure basically, so you come under attack, so you sealed yourself in. Now underneath each one of the pyramids is an aquifer, or it's an unpollutable underground water source. Now, if they had to seal themselves in there, man can go without food, it's a rough term, but man can go without food for 3 weeks, but he can only go without water for 3 days. Now, if you're stuck in there on your Sweeney, you've got no water or nothing, you are bang in trouble, especially in the desert. You know, it's like you're going to need an ice pop or two. Right, so like that's what that's basically there for, the aquifer. That's, for me, that's what give it away as a part of its structure. I presume that'll be where the bods will sleep or whatever if they had to seal themselves in. They get a bit of shut-eye. There's probably weapons and stuff like that in there as well, I would imagine. So basically, yeah, what would happen? The guys would then load their gold in and out. Any trouble comes along, boom, pull that. If they have to fall back there, shut the door, blah de blah. But what's interesting is there is a square in exactly the same shape as that, the perfect dimensions, and there's a room next door, a chamber, a hidden room. And I think what might have happened is they might have actually been able to push that square into the hole in the wall, so it looks like there's nothing there at all, like push comes to shove, and it's actually part, well, mostly in the room next to it. You'd have to look it up, you know, I can't show it now. But we find these mummies that are buried with all the regalia of a pharaoh, like this, and they've got these ceremonial wheels they've been found buried with. Now I think these are the masters of the pyramid, you know, held in extremely high esteem, considering they basically control the money of the pharaohs. So you've got to keep them sweet, because you don't want them running off with all your load here. And yeah, see, as well, like this, the entrance goes down before it goes up. Now, it's impossible to smoke people out if you're to try and do that, because smoke rises. So it's going to be hard to get smoke to go down before it goes up again. Do you know what I mean? So that seems like another sort of anti-siege type sort of thing they got going on here. And I think it's quite funny actually. So the Freemasons, that's their symbol, with this eye at the top of the pyramid in the top section. And it's basically showing you, look, he's literally saying, look at the top section of the pyramid. That's what's going on. So it's gold, 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 gold. Right, that's what it's always about, because gold controls the minds of men. Everybody's got their price. Gold can move mountains. Gold is God. Gold is God. So, you know, there you go. It's not so hard to understand, is it? I mean, and when you look around, it's pretty damn obvious. Like I say, I'll pop the picture up, you have a look at those pens and whatnot, and you can look it up on Google or whatever, hidden metropolis in Africa. And there were millions of them, literally millions of people enslaved. Now, why do tribal people need gold? Come on, you can't do nothing, you can't hunt with it. You're not going to dazzle a deer with it or anything, or kill it with a bit of gold here. You know, it's not going to put a roof over your head. What do you need it for? So, like, when you see there's evidence all over there, it's going on for thousands of years, these tribal people collecting gold. When none of them have the ability to even smelt it, what's the point of having gold? You can't smelt it. You know, it's ridiculous. And this discovery has linked into loads of other discoveries, which has really opened my mind to what's actually going on in the world and what has been going on for thousands of years. But I'll get to that in my book. I'll give you a little teaser of it, but yeah, some absolutely mind-blowing stuff. I'll leave this one here. Like I say, have a look at these little have a look it up. You know, it's really quite interesting. And there's all these little cities over Africa. Mansour Musa, he's supposed to be the richest man that ever lived, and he just happened to live in Africa, a continent where people predominantly at the time didn't use money. How weird's that? That's not where you expect to find the richest man, is it? That's like saying the richest man that ever lived is, I don't know, come from the Isle of Wight or something. No, that don't even make sense. There's no, alright, the jungles of Brazil or something. Alright, I'm waffling on now, I'll probably knock it on the head right here. Alright, cheers for joining up again. Yeah, have a look at it. And if you've got something else to do, go do it. Alright, take care, I'll see you in a bit.